Far was published in 2020 by Cherry Pick Games. Designed by Alex Yajovic, it was illustrated by Jake Bryce and Jules Naujoks. Cherry Pick Games provided this in exchange for an honest review. Two planetary explorers interact with local animals and try to fulfill their mission for the Federation Alliance despite little to no budget. I'll talk a little on what do I think about how to add a third player. Random terrain hexes make up the world where you crash landed. The game consists of a series of branching missions with objectives to fulfill. In addition to completing the mission, you'll usually need to repair your broken ship. You are not alone, however. Many creatures live here, and their cards provide information and rules for each, how they move, eat, attack, and so on. Some wish to live their life in peace. Others, not so much. When killed, creatures provide meat you won't be able to eat early on. Need to get around quickly? Domesticate a creature, then go for a ride. Creatures are managed in the ecosystem board. There are a lot of acronyms in this game, but they're just for flavor. Anyhow, there are den creatures or wandering ones. When creatures activate, players play out their behavior in a logical way based on their characteristics. When exploring a new tile, roll the exploration die to see what the new area holds. Resources, a landmark, a creature, or an anomaly. Terrains generate a resource and landmark type. Canyons give minerals and a vein, forests produce plants in a grove, deserts give fuel and a depot, swamps give bioplastics and a bog, and tundra give orbs and a grotto. Pretty straightforward, right? Well, remember that the agency you work for is cheap. You're provided with no food, no working communicators, and I'll just show you. You can only communicate on the same hex, so plan well at the start and update one another when you meet again. If you meet again. You'll starve if you can't find a way to process alien meat or find enough plants to eat. Spend too much time apart and you die from loneliness. Spend actions to move, use or build buildings and items, and fight or scare creatures. Eating, carrying items, and socializing or trading are free. Continue until you pass or fail your mission. Failures aren't reported to the press. Who needs bad publicity, right? If you succeed, the Federation is so shocked you're given credits to spend on upgrades. Depending on results, you may trigger one or more contingencies. Completed contingencies can provide additional credits between missions or possibly a penalty in future missions. Break it down, explore and learn about the terrain and wildlife, and hopefully survive long enough to fulfill your mission. That's Far Away. Far Away should not be played by kids younger than 9 or 10 because of the difficulty and the need to plan efficiently. The more turns you take, the more creatures will spawn or activate, and the harder it may be to get back one another safely or just scavenge food. You need 3 feet by 5 feet during the boards, player areas, and growing map. Some missions won't need as much space as others though. Save this for weekends. Our average game took 2 hours. Player choices and circumstances can extend this or cut it a lot shorter. After beating the tutorial easily with Dad, me and Mum tackled the first real mission. It started poorly, but we got in sync and made it right up until the end, until I died of loneliness. Me and Mum gave it another shot 2 nights later, and, like the first 2 plays, had a blast. I want you to experience things for yourself, so I'll just say that we need to build several buildings before repairing our ship. Early on, we were able to keep the creatures under control, but were overrun before too long. Some of the larger, aggressive creatures were distracted by other wildlife, allowing us a few safe turns to gather materials for the xenobiology lab and a domestication tool. Back on track again, we were desperate to find some plants. We used the resources we did have to build a murder turret to provide cover fire, not to mention meat, while we repaired the ship. With hungry creatures on our tail, we dragged the ship to the landing pad and left that planet. Far Away. I really like Far Away's creature art. Some are really cute and all look like real creatures. The cards have a lot of small text that can be hard to read. If you sit across the board, many cards will be hard to read upside down. The rules reference is very thorough, showing all the icons and round steps. There's just the one to share between players. The box is surprisingly heavy, but it's not so big that it can't fit into a backpack in case you want to bring this with you. I can't see that happening all that often though, due to the length and complexity. Setup is long because of the randomization, which adds a ton to the variability and approach to gameplay, but between that and overall length, this isn't a game to just grab and jump into. There are people who may never try it because of this, and that's just a shame. While the tutorial holds back on a few land types and some of the more in-depth mechanisms, it also does a good job of teaching you the core mechanisms while not putting you in danger. I tend to like games where you learn by playing. Maybe my ADHD plays a role, but I'd rather play than sit around for an hour and listen or teach Mom and Dad. I love how realistic the creatures feel, and I'm happy the designer didn't have them all activate the same way. This feels like a living world. Some creatures are motivated by hunger or fear, and some just don't want to be alone. The rules are light on the details, so players do what feels fair. This reminds me of Van Ryder Games' Final Girl. Adjust difficulty depending on how you have the creatures act. Taming creatures? Super cool. Some are too dangerous to approach or block your path. Tame them to make exploring easier. Drones? Also cool. Put them to work for you. Just watch out for those enemy ones. You'll take many turns and make many decisions. There are a handful of available actions: the use destroy option on some tiles, how to avoid or approach creatures, and how to solve the mission. I'm glad that you can move several spaces in a straight line if you have a clear path. The game would be a chore otherwise. There you'll be frequently stopped. Poor choices usually just slow you down, then cause you to fail. Hunger and loneliness can cost you the game, and this isn't something you see often. It makes sense too. Your two travelers crash landed on a strange world. Of course you're going to have a better chance surviving if you stay together. The communication limit is thematic and yet another unique element. While they have a lot of control, there's a sizable amount of luck in the way hexes come out, what spawns on them, and what creatures appear. Sometimes nothing shows up, other times you're quickly surrounded. You'll want to change plans on the fly, and go for buildings and or gear depending on what's available to you. You feel like you're under threat enough that you must be efficient with your actions. The randomness and missions give this plenty of replay value. Creating a wildlife preserve or creating a virus will feel different each time you play. I mentioned contingencies in the basics. They not only add variety, but unexpected results to the in-game narrative. I really like the campaign bonuses. After completing the first mission, you get a boost from future completed xenobiology labs and computing cores. Get additional bonuses for met contingencies. You'll also receive credits, but don't have to spend them. You can save up for expensive bonuses, such as starting missions with the drone or domestication tools. This is yet another decision, and remind me of Roleplayer Adventures. This is a two-player co-op, but unlike Fog of Love, which I reviewed recently, or Codenames Duet, which I haven't yet reviewed, although I covered the standard game, this can support a third player. It mentions in the tech-heavy rulebook that another person can control the creatures. This provides a twist, and the explorers can only react instead of manipulating things in our favor. We didn't get a chance to try this out as a recording, but hope to by the time the review goes live. My final thought in this longer than usual what do I think is that there are going to be quite a bit of analysis paralysis due to the number of things to think about. AP is when you freeze when making decisions. Thankfully for us, we tend to be quick gamers, and there is next to no downtime. You'll need to think about your gaming partner before picking this up. The communication limits do prevent quarterbacking, although this may lead to frustration depending on personality, age, or both. Faraway is an exploration game that captures the feeling of being alone in a strange and dangerous world, yet isn't just stressful, it's fun. There are 8 missions in the box, not including the tutorial, but the way they come out means you're going to replay these with your usual gaming partner, then experience them in a different way with a different friend or family member. Not to mention the fact that you'll probably need to replay them because survival is not guaranteed, or even likely. If you're a fan of the video game Grounded or other survival exploration video and tabletop games, you're going to want to check this out. The rulebook can be light in some sections, which is surprising to see how text heavy it is, but put the effort in and you'll find one of the most unique and interesting games in a long time.